The homeowner gets sold, but what the homeowner gets sold on is that you are the right person and you are with the right company, and that the price is within what they were willing to pay. If for some reason they don't buy, they're either not okay with the price, they're not okay with the product, they're not okay with the company selling it, or with you. With the influx of claims because of the influx of roofing companies that lead to an influx of sales reps and door knockers, these insurance companies are having to hire anybody with a pulse to help them adjust these claims. So you're dealing with uneducated adjusters. You're dealing with uneducated contractors. And then they're going back and forth, knocking doors, telling people to file claims for things that aren't actually storm damages. Private equity is hot in the roofing space right now. They are gobbling up a lot of companies, but if you build a good company with good systems and a good reputation, you are always purchasable. They will always find you.
Welcome to the Roofing Success Podcast. I'm Jim Aline, and I'm here to bring you insights from top leaders in the roofing industry to help you grow and scale your roofing business. Taylor Ammons, how's it going today?
What's up, buddy? I'm good, man. How are you today?
I'm wonderful. I am wonderful. So, Taylor, you're Paragon Roofing out of Nashville.
That's right.
What got you into roofing?
Oh, man. So I was a car guy. I sold cars for a long time. And it's funny, too, because you'll see in the little roofing pages, or sometimes when I'll do content and they're like, what a used car salesman. And I was. And so it's so funny. But, I enjoyed the car business, but the car business, you're behind a desk all day. The customers come to the lot. You're going out to up them. There's a lot of banging the phones and calling leads. And, frankly, the car sales guys kind of have a bad rep. And so, I again did it for a while. I worked at used car stores. I worked at new car stores, and it really taught me a lot with customer communication, customer service, the sales aspect of things, building rapport and relationships. And so I definitely wouldn't change it, but I met a guy down in Warner Robins one time, and he ran into me and he saw me in all of my car sales gear, and he gave me a business card, and he said, "Man, if you ever want to try roofing sales, just give me a shout." And I actually laughed it off. And I said, "Man, I'm a car guy." And I threw it in my truck door. And then, automotive sales is very up and down. And so I had a bad month and was in my head. And I remembered back to one of my managers back in the day that said, "Hey, you can always turn down the job, but never turn down a chance to interview." And so I went ahead and called him. And really the reason behind that is you get practice. And
That's
so
right.
I gave him a call and I said, "Hey, man, I'd love to sit down with you and just find out more about what the deal is, like how it works." I had no clue. And they were actually in the process of converting from a roofing company into a full general contractor. So it was going to be kind of an opportunity to sell all types of construction. And we sat down and ultimately what he explained to me was insurance restoration roofing. And he was talking about, hey, customers will have storm damages. It's a lot of door to door. It's a full commission position. And you go out, if they've got shingles missing or any sort of storm damages, you can document all of that. And then they will typically get a claim going with their insurance company. Adjusters come out. They usually write a check on the spot because this was a while ago. And so he was like, and then you make 10% of whatever the job is. And around here, most of the jobs are around $10,000. And so, you're looking at $1,000 every time you close a deal. And at the time I was selling anywhere between 15 and 18 up to 28 cars in a month. And so I was like, I know how to do that. And it sounded easy, and it sounded like an opportunity to be out and about every day, getting to drive around, getting to go be outside. And this is coming from a dude that'd been inside for 5 years. And so I thought about it for a little while, and then kind of had a little falling out with my manager at the car lot, and I dipped out. But when I got to the to the roofing company. He brought me in and gave me a T-shirt. He had ordered me some business cards when I told him I was in. We drove over to Sherwin-Williams. He bought me a telescoping ladder and he gave me that. I was driving a sedan at the time. He gave me that. And then he was like, all right, you're good to go. And he sent me out to Raleigh, North Carolina. And this was not long after the hailstorm that went through Garner, North Carolina. And he sent me out there to work with his, top sales guy. And the dude was a good guy, but the first day, the first roof that we got onto, he looked over at me and he was like, now I'm going to show you how we get these things approved. And he proceeded to just all over this roof. And so it really threw me off. And I talked about this on Tim Brown's podcast a few years ago, but it threw me off. But they sold it like, hey, we don't do this if the roof is in perfectly good shape. But if there's a handful of shingles that are damaged, we just want to make sure that it gets approved because that's what the customers pay for their insurance for. So I stayed there about 2 months. And about a month in, I was like, this doesn't seem right. I was like, this just seems, unethical. And so I started doing a little research, and then I started seeing insurance fraud, guys that go to jail, and all of these sting operations that have happened. And I'm like, oh, I got to get out of here because, I had some trouble when I was younger, and I was trying to get away from that. And the last thing I wanted to do was turn into I was trying to become a more ethical person.
Yeah.
And so, I ended up at the time, my wife, or my now wife, but her and I were dating. She was living in Nashville. I was down in Warner Robins, and she had me come up here one time, and I had no idea that Nashville was a big city. I thought Nashville was like I picture in country music, like tumbleweeds and farms everywhere. And so she took me down to Broadway, and we hung out. I didn't realize the Titans were here. And then she was like, at the time, I was going to go to Columbia, South Carolina to open up an office. And she was like, hey, I don't really want to go out to Columbia. She was like, I've moved to Nashville 2 years ago. I really like it here. And no offense, but you just sell roofs. You can do that here. And so we decided that I would move up here. And so that's what we ended up doing. That's how I got to Nashville, and then started working with another company in the area and did that for almost a year. And I just didn't love, you and I had talked about it briefly, but I didn't love their back end process of actually producing the work that we sold. And again, I was working on my integrity, and I would set a certain expectation with the client, and that wasn't being fulfilled. So I was managing my own jobs, working the neighborhood, and making 10%. And then I was one of those cocky sales reps that thought the only other thing I wasn't doing was ordering materials. And so I decided to start my own thing, and then proceeded to get kicked in the face for 2 years while I figured it out.
There's a little more to it. It's amazing.
There's a little more. There's a little more to it.
There's a little more to it. It sounds, what's the grass is greener, right? And that's kind of a lesson from the car business too, a little bit, right? Yep. The grass is greener. Now the car business, I think, is fascinating. And I think people, and you give me your opinion on this, people that found success as a car salesperson.
Yep.
I feel like they've been, a lot of times they've been well trained.
Very well. And a lot of these dealerships invest a lot of money because we do on a weekly basis. We had either outside sales professionals coming in to pour into us, but all the time we were having to do continuing education.
Before we carry on with the episode, let's give a shout out to one of our sponsors. Roofers, let's get real.
You're great at building roofs, but are you great at building a steady stream of leads? That's where Job Nimbus Marketing comes in. They know the roofing industry inside and out, and they'll help you dominate Google, Facebook, reputation management, and everything in between. If you want more quality leads, more booked jobs, and more growth, visit the link in the description or the sponsors page on the Roofing Success Podcast website.
All the time we were having to do continuing education and those types of things, which is where I feel the roofing industry lacks, because that was their biggest thing is they really did pour into their people to make sure that they were good, because at the end of the day, the car sales or the car dealerships may be paying a lot of money to get that customer on the lot. And they need to make sure when that customer is there, they either buy or die, which is tough, but it really gives you some grit. I think anybody that gets into sales should spend a little time at a car dealership and figure out what real sales is.
Yeah, there's a couple of different places that I see that. Car sales is one of them.
Yep.
Cutco
Yes.
is one of them, right? Like,
Yep.
there are these certain yeah, there are these certain types of sales where everyone in the room knows that you are only here to sell.
Yep.
Right? Like there's I would say maybe there's some consultative selling in the car business now too, but boy, it's you walk in there knowing you're
Yep.
knowing, right?
Yeah.
And that was, like when you just as a joke, I was thinking when you were talking about the ethics of the roofing company that was training you originally, I'm like, Taylor, man, but you were a used car salesman,
And it's funny you say that too, because I got cussed out a lot by my sales managers because, I was not going to push somebody to buy a beater. And they would try, because at the end of the day, anybody that's worked at a car lot knows those desk managers hide behind it, and they'll tell you what to say, and you've got to scurry on and you better say it. And I used to go sit down at the desk and be like, hey, my sales manager wants me to push this and this, but based on what you've told me and based on what you like, let's work a deal on this other one. Let's get to a number that I know they'll probably say yes to. You sign off on that and I'll make it happen. I said, if you hear yelling from the office, just know I'm working your deal out.
That's right.
But they hated it. But, it'd be an older car or something that they had a bunch of profit in and they were trying to get it moved. And I'm just like, no, because at the end of the day, that client's going to call me when it breaks down in 6 months. I didn't want to be that guy.
And that, I think that's the thing, maybe a good point to hit on here is that where I think owners go wrong a lot of times is, especially as they start to build out that sales team, there's two things that I heard from you. So first, it's protecting the integrity of the salesperson, right? Because they will get that phone call.
For sure.
Right. They will get that phone call.
And if they get enough, they're out.
That's right. And then that's kind of to the second half of what I was thinking about in this. And that, I've talked about it many times on the podcast, but it's being a sold person versus being a salesperson.
Yep.
Right. If you're sold on the company that you're working for and you really understand that they are doing the best for their customer every day, they're helping you. Even if some expectations got misaligned, because they will get misaligned if you're dealing with in construction, right? Stuff's going to happen. But if you have that understanding and that you're sold that they have the right intentions and the right integrity.
Yep.
I mean, that first company that trained you, there's no way you could have believed that they were going to have integrity or stand up for anything with you or back you up on it. I mean, they're out there, making up claims. Like how can you have faith that they're even going to, take care of the customer at all?
Right.
Right. Like
it's the same thing as the guy who cheats on his spouse. Like if you're running around on the person that's supposed to be closest to you, I'm definitely not going to trust you,
Yeah.
So it's all kind of relative.
Yes. And so let's speak to that a little bit. Now, as you have gone from, to the owner side,
Yep.
there, you got some lessons along the way.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
oh, wait, that wasn't as hard as, or that wasn't as easy as I thought it was going to be. And how have you built your company in a way that, intentionally or unintentionally, to support your sales reps in that way, like to
Yeah.
make them be sold on selling for you?
Yep. Yeah, that's a great question. And the answer to it was I intentionally stayed relatively as small as possible, as long as possible, until I felt confident in the scale. Because
Mm,
in the car dealership, it was notorious for about every 6 months your pay plan changes, or things change, or you're required to do more, or they change the pay plan and give you more responsibilities. And then again, that falls back to the confidence that you have in the organization
yeah.
you're working for. And so most of the time in roofing sales, they're going to pay a pretty standard, whether it's a 10%, 12%, or if it's a larger company that can afford to pay a little base plus a smaller commission, or if it's a company that is just out slanging it and they're trying to do, a 10-50-50 or a 10-60-40 or something like that. But it was keeping it small and figuring out exactly how we wanted to do everything. And then not only doing everything, but then documenting everything so that we have those processes in place so that we can actually enforce what we do. Because I think way too many companies now will go in and they immediately want to go ahead and hit the ground running, hire all these salespeople, train them up in the field, show them what needs to be done. And then really, a lot of them are just, hey, if the customer lets you get on the roof and there's a little bit of stuff that may be damaged, let's go ahead and roll the dice and see what happens. And
Yeah.
that may have worked a few years ago, but in 2025, 2026, absolutely not. And so at this point in the process, reps that are doing insurance related work are going to need to know what to do. They're going to need to know how to document that, how to educate the homeowner on what to expect, how to get them involved and engaged in the claims process. Because, again, a couple of years ago, the reps could do everything start to finish. And with a handful of insurance companies nowadays, you still can. And even with some of your more difficult carriers, the rep can still do a lot, but at the end of the day, the homeowner usually needs to at least step in a little bit or be engaged in what's going on. They can't, it's not as much where they can be totally hands off. And so it was just all the educational stuff, but not only documenting the processes, but let's get some sort of like training protocol in place, something that people go through. And then the other thing is understanding how these projects go together, because if you know how to install a roof, you're going to be a much better professional when you get out into the field, because
Mhm.
not only do you know potentially what an issue is, but you know how to perform the repair. And then also kind of knowing how to price that out without having to just get other people involved. And in the car business, you used to have customers that would ask you questions to intentionally see if you were going to be dishonest with them. It may be, horsepower, fuel mileage, any sort of crash ratings or something like that. They may already know the answer. And I think homeowners will sometimes do the same, or they're out getting multiple quotes from people. And so if you're asking those questions on the front end, that, okay, majority of contractors aren't doing this, so I'm going to make sure I touch a
Mhm.
little bit on that so that I can separate myself. Because if you're saying the same thing, if you're knocking the doors and, hey, you might have storm damage, you know, that door's been knocked 50 times with somebody saying that. So you have to figure out how do I come at this a little bit differently so that I can be remembered, and then make sure that that customer knows that I'm the right person for the job. Because at the end of the day,
the homeowner gets sold, but what the homeowner gets sold on is that you are the right person and you are with the right company, and that the price is within what they were willing to pay. If for some reason they don't buy, they're either not okay with the price, they're not okay with the product, they're not okay with the company selling it, or with you. There's only so many different factors that will be in there. And so if you know that you can check all of those boxes, and again, it goes back to being a good company, being a good rep, having a good product, and then knowing how to present your price. And then if you can put all of that, knock all those dominoes down, if somebody doesn't buy, they probably just weren't your client.
Yeah, for sure. How, what is, it's a couple of things I heard there that I want to get into. One of the things that you said is more that I heard you say is to train reps to have a higher level of roofing knowledge, not just train them on the close.
Yep.
Right. Like, let's train them on roofing knowledge so that when they have those conversations, they sound different. Is that
Yep.
what I'm hearing? Did I hear that right? And
Yeah.
not that they just sound different, but they are different, right?
Right.
I guess is a better way to put
Yeah.
it. Not just
Yeah.
that they sound different.
Yeah, and because again, you can BS your way through some stuff, but at the end of the day, if there's a sidewall that's leaking and you can explain to that customer, hey, look, you've got some issues with your sidewall. Unfortunately, when the roof was replaced 8 years ago, they reused all this flashing. And so now it's finally failed and we need to do a more permanent repair. So we're going to open this wall up, and most manufacturers are going to want a leak barrier. We call it ice and water shield wrapped up that wall. So we're going to need to replace all that flashing. Your flashing is actually too small to work for current building codes now. So we're going to replace all of that. Your counter flashing is the metal that's over your brick that you can see. That's actually supposed to be cut into the wall. It's not. So we've got some water getting behind there. Again, you're just sounding so much different than the guy that's like, yeah, you've got a leak at this sidewall and we're going to get it replaced. I'll get you a quote, or, hey, it's going to be $1,500. Sign here. It sounds so much different. And then when you can explain how the repair or the project or insurance process is going to go, and then that's exactly what happens, again, you're only adding to that credibility, making yourself more referable, and then what we at Paragon call giving that customer a white glove experience.
That was so what I hear in that is it's really just trust. Right? If someone can explain something to me and break it down and really give me the details about why and what and how, and you're really just building a higher, you're just adding to that trust bucket, right?
For sure.
I think a lot of times that's why, and it made me think of early on, a lot of times owners have a hard time with having other people selling. And I've heard this a few times where they've hired sales reps and it didn't work out, and they're just like, man, they just want to buy from me.
I know you're enjoying the episode, but let's give a shout out to another one of our sponsors. I talk to contractors every day that feel stuck. Not because they're not working hard, but because they're missing the structure to growth without chaos. Or their culture's falling apart because their team's unclear, unaligned, or just burned out. And when change hits, they're reacting instead of leading because time and priorities aren't under their control. Day 41 Thrive helps to fix that with proven strategies for growth, culture, and leadership that actually work. Ready to thrive beyond the storm? Visit the link in the description or visit the Roofing Success Podcast website on the sponsors page to start your journey today.
Like, man, they just want to buy from me.
Yep. Yeah. And that, to me, usually that comes down to the fact that you haven't documented your processes well enough to replicate yourself. Because once you actually have it to where it's in writing, maybe it's even in video format, and then you're regularly pouring that back into the reps, then you can begin to replicate yourself. But when you bring them out into the field with you for 3 days and y'all knock some doors and do a few inspections, and then you say, go sell,
then you
Mhm.
can't be mad when they fall on their face, because I would
That's
argue,
right.
and I don't know what the number is, but I would say 10% of reps that actually get trained that way are gonna stick. And
Maybe.
the only reason I did is because I actually enjoyed it, and I realized that I was not getting good training, so I got on Google that sent me to YouTube, and then I found a guy by the name of the Roof Strategist, and I
Mhm.
just studied him. I would study him at night when I was out going door to door. I would study his pitches, and I would say, "Let's try this one." And I would go for 4 hours using one of Bensman's pitches and see how it worked. And then I would rinse and repeat and just constantly drilling that in. And then I was reading the installation guides for the different manufacturers. I still carry them around with me, because let's say, for instance, a customer on their repair, when you can be like, "Oh, hey, actually, let me show you real quick," and flip to the manufacturer's guide and be like, "Hey, you've got this particular shingle. See right here, it actually wants us to do all of this stuff. And if I don't, I can't confidently tell you it's not gonna leak." And so that's how we have to
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah, and so this is one thing uh, that you said, so that you went out and sought that information out because you knew it was something that you wanna do.
Yep.
Now, as you're bringing people on and hiring and training, and how do you determine, "Hey, is this," because I'm the same way, man, like, I'm gonna study it. Like, whatever it is that I'm trying to accomplish, or whatever I'm doing, I'm going to study it,
Yep.
and I'm gonna do it on my own. I'm
Yep.
gonna go and study it on my own. Um, how have you worked that into your training process?
So ultimately, again, getting it into some sort of written format, getting it into some sort of video format, but then it's living it as well. And I think arguably one of the best to do it is probably Raymond Little. Because if
Just had Ray on,
when you
yeah.
follow his stuff, man, I watched him a lot, and he would be out there and he was doing it. But as a byproduct, look at what they built. You get a lot of these guys that they want to be removed from the sales side of things. They want to be removed from the customer side of things, and so they're hiring to remove themselves as opposed to hiring to pour into people. And so
Mhm.
if that is you and you're wanting to be removed, then maybe that hire should be a seasoned sales manager that wants to be out customer facing, so that you have somebody that can be in that authoritative position and lead from the front. Because if you do want to just sit and do other stuff, or you want to go to the golf course or something like that and reap the benefits of owning your business, then you need somebody out there that's actually in the mud with the reps. Because it's the same thing back to the car business, where the reps would get a sour taste in their mouth because that desk manager is hiding from talking to a
Mhm.
customer as opposed to coming out. But when you had that sales manager that would come out and sit at the desk and walk through and pour into the client, as you're just soaking it in as a sales rep, and it makes you want to work that much harder.
Yeah, definitely. What about on the hiring side? Have you implemented anything that helps you determine this person has that type of personality, that they're going to go and seek stuff out, they're going to go and work on this themselves, that I could tell that this person that I'm sitting across from interviewing, there's something about them. Like, how have you had any lessons on that side of things? Have you implemented anything in that manner?
Yeah, and this is probably something I had picked up from, it had to have been Revolt, so we'll give them the shout out,
Mhm.
um, but doing personality testing just to find out, because
Mhm.
people can BS you in an interview. It's happened to me before, where the guy's a smooth talker and he can get through, and then you realize like he doesn't actually know what he's doing, or he's not actually about this, or he's not actually hungry. So I think all people should do some sort of multi-stage interview process, because we'll use Daniel Zvodny over there at Zvodny Consulting and ZCI.
I don't.
Okay.
No.
He's a good guy. He was a Revolt guy, but he's got his roofing company that's general contractors, and then they have their supplement company. And he had put me on to Viva HR, and Viva HR is a really cool hiring platform that you can have an ad. And the cool thing is you pay them monthly. When you post it, it goes out to like 30 or 40 different forums at the same time. So you're different Indeeds and stuff like that. And you can actually pay to boost it even more if you want to. But on there, they have really cool funnels that you can put potential prospects through, where they can watch a hiring video. So you can actually walk them through what it is that because you're ultimately selling, what it is that you are offering. And then from there, you can take them through a list of questions that they have to answer. And then from there, you can send them over to what I would do is have the posting, and then it would actually tell them to, hey, go to this website, take this personality test, email it to this address, and then we'll give you a call and schedule an interview. And that way you have the application, they've watched the video, and then if they actually read the instructions, they have done that sort of testing. And if they've done all of that, that they're at least worth the conversation. And a lot of the Revolt guys do that and have a lot of success with it, because they just, and in that video, they're getting all the BS out of the way. Hey,
that's right.
Yeah, it's 100% commission. Yeah, you've got to knock some doors. Yeah, it may suck from time to time, but I can tell you, if you stick through it and you learn this, it'll change your life.
That's right. And a lot of people don't treat a recruiting funnel like a marketing funnel, but it is.
For sure. It's very similar.
It's the same thing. You're qualifying prospects. Hey, let me ask you a few questions. The less questions you ask on the marketing side, if you just ask someone for their email,
yep,
you get a lot of more people filling that form out.
Yep.
Right. Like but if you ask for their name, their email, and then you start asking other questions about, the age of their roof or any of those types, all of a sudden, the more questions you put in there,
yep,
the greater the filter.
Yep.
And then, if you have to you have to watch a video before we come out.
Yep.
Did you watch that video? Well, watch that video before. You could really filter the people that you're sitting down with for sales presentations too.
For sure.
To me,
and that idea.
Yeah. But I think that depends on where you're at in your company.
For sure.
Right. Like, to me, if you need business, then you go to you get as many leads as possible. Right. So if you, and maybe it's, depending on where you're at in your company from a sales recruiting perspective too. You get to a certain place, you may just want to, seminar style it out and pack a room with people and, to kind of filter them out that way, or you could say, no, I only want to talk to quality people. Ray talks about he would take 2 people every quarter.
Yep.
Two reps. You get to ride in the truck with Ray every, for 3 months, right? Like, that's 2 at a time, no more. That's it. So when this opportunity presents itself, jump in the truck or don't jump in the truck. But if you jump in this truck, we're going. We're working, right? And so, how do you think, from a time perspective? I know everyone's going to start in a different place, so it's a little bit of a challenging question to ask. But how long does it take to get someone ready to be able to have those type of conversations with a homeowner that build that level of trust that we talked about by really knowing your stuff?
I know you're enjoying the episode, but let's give a shout out to another one of our sponsors. If you and your team aren't trained on AI yet, you're already falling behind. Competitors using AI are generating more leads, closing jobs faster, and running leaner. The AI roofing revolution gives your team the training to implement AI so you stay ahead, not scramble to catch up. Don't wait until you're losing. Get trained now at the link in the description or the sponsors page of the Roofing Success Podcast website.
That level of trust that we talked about by really knowing your stuff.
Man, and yeah, I definitely think it would be super dependent on the person. But I know, like with myself personally, I was very rocky for 4 to 6 weeks. You know, there was a lot of things that I may say that weren't correct, or would have to say, hey, I don't really know, but I'll double check and let you know. But the other thing is, it's okay to play the new card for a while. I did it in the car business for about a year. And then in roofing for about a year, like, hey, look, I recently started doing this and I'm learning as much as I can. But one thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to get excellent photos. I'm going to answer the phone. And if I don't know the answer to your question, I'll get it for you. But the company I'm working for is incredible. And let me tell you about them. And the boss, let me tell you about him, you know, and then from there, they don't care as much if you're new, because it's like, hey, look, if we have to figure this out together, we will. But some of these guys may come over and just blow smoke up your skirt. I'm going to be real with you. And hey, frankly, if you want somebody that's been doing it for 10 years, we got another guy at the company that's been there forever. I can bring him over, you know? But I would say if you get somebody that is hungry to learn, I would say within about 60 to 90 days, they can be pretty confident, but then they're going to continue to learn. I still learn to this day. I'll still go out and maybe diagnose a leak, and then we have to go back and fix something because it was actually a little over or a little higher. And so you're constantly learning. And so anybody that thinks they're done learning is done, because you're always going to be learning. But, you know, I would say within 90 days, maybe up to 6 months, you can have a pretty confident sales rep. And then again, it's still going to be pretty rocky for that first year. You know, you get a good storm season under your belt. And I would even argue you need to get a good storm season under your belt, and you need to get a good winter under your belt, because that'll give you a whole new perspective of what you're going to do that following summer.
Yes.
Because, you know, again, most of us are commission reps, and you're getting those big checks in the summertime. So you're taking vacations, you're buying the watches, you're paying $1,500 a month for your truck mortgage, if you will. You know, and then all of a sudden it gets into February and you're a little hungry. You're eating some ramen noodles. You're out doing gutter cleanings on the weekends. I mean, you're figuring it out. And so I feel like you need to have a good summer and a good winter. But then I think it also depends on what you want to do, because I never wanted to storm chase. There's some guys that love storm chase, and I love being home. I love getting to hang out with my wife every evening. But there's some guys, especially if they were single. If I was single, I might have loved to go on the road, because those guys will make a killing. If I would have found this in my 20s, I would have went on the road for sure. But I think it depends on what you want to do. But also, a lot of these guys will talk about being $1 million producer or a multi-million-dollar producer, or they'll see guys like Dan Walrack that did 18 million. And that's not like always going to happen, you know, doing 18 million a year solo. You know, I mean, that's a massive year, and I love it for him because it's incredible. But I mean, most of the time, I think thriving for that $100,000 a year guy is a great, or $1 million a year guy is a great goal to have. Cause I mean, you're only talking about what, 333 a month or something like that. Like it's not very difficult, especially when you get into it. But you know, I think a lot of these owners need to do a good job of setting expectations when the reps come in, because it was a few months before I started making money. You know, I mean,
Definitely.
it takes a little while. And, you know, the first company I worked for did 1,000, 1,000, 500, 500 for the first 4 weeks. And then you went 100% commission. And that $3,000 was on a draw basis that they kind of trickled back out of your checks as you started making money. Some guys will do 500 a week for the first 4 or 8 weeks to get some money flowing in. And then that may be on a draw, or that may just be sort of a base. And then some do 100% commission out of the gate. But if you take a position at 100% commission out of the gate, there's not a fresh storm, you're not storm chasing, it's going to take a little while because you need to build that book of business. People need to know who you are. And then you also have to be able to figure out how to convert that door knock into an inspection, into either a claim filed or a signed contract. And that stuff takes time.
It does. It takes a lot of time. I want to talk to you a little bit now about the transition, because boy, that looked beautiful. Ownership looked beautiful, right? Yep. It was like, man, I'm doing the whole, I'm pretty much doing everything now. Yep. I think that's what you told me in your word, right? Like, I'm pretty much doing everything now. I might as well just take on the whole thing and make all the money.
Yeah. The only thing I wasn't doing was ordering material and scheduling the labor. Yeah. And that'll only take me another 10, 15 minutes.
That's right.
You know,
what was the first roadblock you hit? The first one that, like, you were like, whoa, wait a second. Whoa, this is not what I expected.
I would probably say the first time that you get a call back that's going to cost you $1,000 to $1,500 to fix because you misdiagnosed the leak or something like that, where you've got to open up a big area. And, you know, one of the things that I do now that I'll mention on your show, just so people will know, is, at least in Tennessee, I don't want to speak for everywhere, but in the state of Tennessee, if you're going to do any sort of permanent roof repair, then the slope that you repair, or the slopes, are required to meet the current building codes. So if there's no drip edge, if there's no valley liners, if that slope doesn't meet whatever's currently required, if you go do a repair on that slope, you're supposed to bring it up to code. And so if you are going to go through and do any patchwork, the best thing to do on our end, we'll do a temporary option, and we'll let the homeowner know, hey, look, Mr. Customer, your roof's about 12 years old. I can get the repairs made without causing much damage to surrounding materials. But in order for me to do a permanent repair, I'm supposed to bring that whole area up to codes. And so I would at least need to do this whole section. But thankfully, I can do a temporary repair option, which frankly might last 20 years. But when I do a temporary repair option, we can list it in the contract as a temporary repair. And then in the event, if you have to file an insurance claim and they want to give you a hard time about this patch, you can explain, hey, look, I signed a contract. We did a temporary repair so that I could protect the property, but we didn't want to do a big, large replacement because the shingles weren't that bad. And then I'll let them know, that way I don't have to tear a bunch of your roof off to make it meet codes. I can just go through and put some shingles in place. But I also can't guarantee it, because when I open this area up, I'm not able to go through and get all the way down to the decking everywhere and inspect all the decking on that whole slope. I can't go in and make sure that all of my underlayment has the proper offsets on the seams and adequate overlaps on the seams. And so, you know, I can't go in and put this drip edge in. I can't do certain things. And so for that reason, we can't confidently say that it's going to whoop it. But between you and I, you're probably going to be okay with this option. But I'll do you a favor, and I'm going to quote to go ahead and do that whole slope so that you know what it's going to cost. But then you may also want to go ahead and get the whole roof whooped, because you've probably only got a couple years left. And one thing that's guaranteed is it's going to cost more in a few years. So I'm going to give you the temporary option that is just an as is. Then I'll give you the whole slope that I can give you a workmanship warranty on. Then I'll give you an option for the full roof. what you're going to notice is 9 times out of 10, they pick that middle option. And you've brought them up to a larger repair, which on a sales commission side, you're making a little bit more money. You can confidently stand behind it. And you will still get a lot of people that say, hey, if you think this temporary option will work, let's go that route first. But then if you start getting callbacks, it's like, I was hoping it was going to work, but let's go ahead and do the larger repair. And then at that point, what we'll do, because we've had that happen, what we'll do at that point is, hey, let's go temporary at first. If it fails, or if you've still got water coming in, then we'll go ahead and do the whole slope. And then what I'll do is I'll go ahead and double check with our team what exactly our true costs were on that original. We'll give you a little bit of a credit on there. And then that way you're not really out too much money, and a lot of companies and owners may be willing to do that. But I think that's a really, really good option to take whenever people are going through and offering that stuff. And so I just wanted to make sure I mentioned that because that works really well. But, I would definitely say it was that first time that you go through and do a repair. And we probably for 2 years were doing repairs and giving warranties where we were just patching in shingles around the roof because you only know what you know. And so that's why I'm so adamant in the content that I produce now to say these things, because I've learned through getting kicked in the teeth. And so if I can save somebody from getting kicked in the teeth, I would like to do that. Now, if somebody wants to call me an idiot in the comments, I'll take that. And so, it definitely that. But also, when I first started Paragon, I called the guy that I was selling cars for when I left to go to the roofing business. He's got his hand in probably 30 different businesses down in Warner Robins area. And when I called him, I was so excited. And I'm like, Pete, I'm opening up my own business, man. And he was like, that's cool. He said, I'm going to give you some advice. He said, keep your business as small as possible. He said, just you, maybe you and another person. And he said, grind your face off. He said, it may take you a year, it may take you 5, but he said, use a spreadsheet if you have to, but keep your costs as low as you can and rake in as much profit as you can. Put $500,000 in the bank so that you have a good nest egg, and then scale. Don't go buy trucks. Don't go buying all these softwares. He said, you're going to get yourself into a mess and you're going to have to dig out. And guess what I did? Did not listen to him. I was buying all the softwares, went and got, I wasn't buying new trucks because material things don't really do anything for me, but the softwares, the apps, the tools, I wanted all the neat stuff so that I could, in my mind, I was laying the foundation for a $10 million company, year 1 and year 2, whereas I feel like a better way to do that, spend a couple years keeping it small, especially if you're just going from a sales rep to starting your own thing and you don't have a business background. Learn the ropes a little bit. Learn how taxes work. Save a little bit of money so that you don't end up on a payment plan, because we've been there, and so, it's one of those, keep it low, figure it out. Don't let your ego get the best of you. And don't compare your chapter 1 to somebody's chapter 15. And a lot of people fall guilty of that. And here's the other thing. Private equity is hot in the roofing space right now. They are gobbling up a lot of companies. But if you build a good company with good systems and a good reputation, you are always purchasable. They will always find you.
Always.
And so there's no, some guys are thinking, if I'm not, a $10 million company or $20 million company with a massive EBITDA so that I can get my multiple, they're throwing all these words out there, they feel like they're going to miss the boat. And that's just not the case. If you build a good company, it's what is it? If you build it, they will come. And that's the name of the game.
That will be for sure.
Yeah.
One of the things I heard there is that is no one thinks about the warranty work.
Yep.
when you're starting a company. So that's the first thing. No one thinks about the warranty work. And then the concept of being small, I like that. And I don't, right? Like I'm a, because I'm a go. I like to go, you know? And so, sometimes I think about making investments and just going, but I think done wisely, right? Like if there's a time to go and there's a time to build that foundation. But definitely don't get caught up in the, oh my goodness, look at my bank account. I can go and buy things that are depreciating assets, right? Like I'm like everything, like if you take the money that you make and put it into things that lose money every single time, you're going to lose money.
Yep.
It's going to happen every single time. And then the other part of it, even if you're, so I like the idea in the slow, just from my, just the way I'm thinking about it, as you said it, I was like, man, I like the idea of keeping it slow and building. I love the idea of what he said of having that base, right? Building a nice little foundation, a nice little nest egg, because every year is not a good year, especially if you're in the storm restoration side of things, right? I mean, and so, and that kind of brings me to a little bit about what has, it's gotten a little bit more challenging out there. Those checks aren't being written as easily from those adjusters, right? And so what has changed? What have you seen changed, and how have you changed to adapt to it?
So, man, I would say one of the biggest ones, again, is, these insurance companies are not using as many staff adjusters now. They're getting rid of that, and I can only assume that the reason is, and I'll just speak candidly, is if I hire a third-party expert out and they go out and do something that's not quite ethical, if I ever get into court, I hired a third-party professional that I trusted to act in our best interest. We didn't know they were going to go do that. We had no idea. We want to make sure we do everything right by the policy, So there's that level of separation. And so you're seeing a lot more of the third-party inspectors coming out. With the influx of claims because of the influx of roofing companies that lead to an influx of sales reps and door knockers, these insurance companies are having to hire anybody with a pulse to help them adjust these claims. So you're dealing with uneducated adjusters. You're dealing with uneducated contractors. And then they're going back and forth, knocking doors, telling people to file claims for things that aren't actually storm damages. Or these companies are building by throwing stuff at the wall to see what sticks. And so, again, it falls back to the educational side of things, but it's sitting down and having the conversation with the homeowner on, this is what it is. Here's what I found. Based on the weather maps, I've confirmed a storm happened. When I walked around the perimeter of your house, I saw some very minor collateral damages to the left and the front elevations. That would make sense because that's the direction that the storm probably came. On the roof, I noticed the same thing. There were some dents in the soft metals. There were definitely some dimples and bruises to the shingles that, to me, appear to be consistent with things that I've seen approved in the past. If this were my house, I would probably have an insurance company come look at it. But at the end of the day, you're hiring me to help you document whatever happened. But I have enough that I can document this and help you. Do you have any questions, or do you know which direction you would like to move in? What they're usually going to say, because again, you're not urging them to file a claim. A lot of guys don't realize if you go out and tell a homeowner as a contractor, you should file an insurance claim on this, I bet it's going to get approved. You can get in trouble for that because you shouldn't entice a homeowner to get a claim filed. You should just simply present the facts. Hey, in the past, here's what I've seen happen. If this were my house, here's what I would do. Or in my insurance policy, I know that I have some additional coverage that pays for code-related items. Yours may not, I don't know. I've got a little question sheet you can ask your agent, but at the end of the day, I'm here to help you document it, and I think there's enough, or I don't think there's enough. And roofers need to do a better job, and owners as well. Your CRM's a gold mine. The car business taught me that. And so if you have a good nurture sequence for a client that doesn't have enough damage, that you can follow up at the next storm, or you can put in and you can have a hail trace or a hail recon monitor that property for storm activity. And then boom, another storm hits, you can call that customer or text them. I don't knock doors after a storm. I haven't for years, because I've got so many clients that are in just as a file in Job Nimbus. And when a storm comes through, I just get an email from Hail Recon and I'll just send text messages, and I should automate it because I could,
Yeah.
but I'll send text messages. Hey, Mr. John, unfortunately, it looks like that storm last night might have got you. Were you home? Did you grab any pictures? Here's my calendar. Book an appointment and I'll come out there and help you out. Book it quick because I'm going to be busy. If you do that 100 times, you're going to crush. You're going to sell your million in 90 days, And so doing a good job on that is going to make all the difference in the world.
Yeah, and that's that long-term value. I think we were talking about it before we hit record, but and you mentioned Dan and his $18 million a year. All of that is built from a database.
Facts.
Right? It's built from getting people to know who you are and that you're that trust you over time and over time and over time and over time. And then continuing to nurture those people, like you said, if it's, you get an alert that there was a storm in their area and you text them, and you could automate it. You might do it manually. It doesn't matter which way it is.
Yep.
It's that you're doing it and that you see. A lot of people don't see the value in that database, especially in storm restoration, unfortunately.
Right. Well, yeah, because they want to turn and burn. They go knock the door, no damage, on to the next, as opposed to no damage. Hey, I'm going to put you into this CRM. I'm going to go back to the office. I'm going to send you a card and I'm going to thank you for your time. I'm going to let you know if your neighbors need anything, if your friends need anything, I'm the guy. Hey, I don't chase storms. I'm going to be here. I'm not going anywhere. I enjoy what I do. I nerd out on this. I mention roofs while I'm watching movies. A lot of us in the industry do. But if you add that little touch, again, you're separating yourself. You're leaving that impression, giving that white glove experience, and it's always going to pay off.
It will always pay off. And so for newer owners and newer, that's part of what if you have new sales reps, you have to set that expectation. You have to get everyone to understand, if you're a new business or a new salesperson, you don't have the database yet.
Yeah.
And so having self-awareness that, look, that's mission number one.
Yep.
Build that database. And, and then that turns into there, you may not have to sell, right? Like you develop that base of customers that will refer you and or use you whenever they need, and there's $1 million a year in sales,
100%,
right?
100%. And even guys that are timid knocking doors, you could go through and just put together a QR code that goes to a form that they can fill out their information and go in your CRM, right? And you could say, hey, look, you could knock on the door and just be like, hey, look, hate to bother you. So I work with Paragon Roofing here in town, and we actually just launched a storm protection program because you're probably tired of door knockers, and I even hate to be here. But what this does is if a storm comes through, it'll notify you and I, and then I can come out and do an inspection so you don't have to wonder who you're going to work with. So do a little research on us. And if you want to get involved with that, it doesn't cost you anything. Here's a little flyer. You can turn to walk away, turn back around. I meant to ask, have you already had your roof looked at this year? Because we always recommend annual eyes. And
Yeah.
then, it's a much softer approach, but you can go door knocking for, your storm protection program or something like that. And just make it fun. It doesn't have to be all serious. You can just go around and, hey, this is what we're doing, because a lot of
Yep.
customers say that they get value out of it. So that's why I'm here. If you want me to pound sand, I'll
Yeah.
pound it with you.
That's right. And that's the way you got to be. You got to get to that's fantastic. So now of the lessons you learn, of the lessons you've learned going from a sales rep to an owner.
Yep.
What was the one you were most stubborn of learning? Which one took you the most time to learn, and which one would you tell other people, man, face it, this is the way it is, and I'm gonna and just go with it?
Yeah. So I would say there's two of them. When I first started, I never thought that having a very, 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 very clear financial snapshot was as important as it is. Because if you don't know your conversion rates or your cash flow rates when you're very small, it's going to be very hard to figure that out at scale. It's much easier to get that in place when you're 1 to 3 million and you've only got 1 or 2 sales reps, because you need to be able to know at any given time what your cash position is. Because if you don't, you can be in the red and have no clue. There's companies operating right now that are not going to be here next year, and they have no idea. They just look up one day and they're like, we have no money. We have no checks coming in. You're robbing Peter to pay Paul, and you're just kind of winging it. And so I don't care if you have to pay somebody, go sell a few jobs, bring somebody in to build that out. Cause I wish that year one, I would have done that and just had like, hey, this is exactly how we know exactly what our cash position is at any time. The second one is get in front of a camera. Get in front of a camera and film some content. And I tell guys in my comment section all the time, if you're so confident that I'm wrong and you're right, shoot content about it, because other people need to hear it, and if you really want to get eyes in your neighborhood, in your area, film videos about it and post them. It doesn't matter if it's not any good or not. Hey, this is what I'm seeing. I'm out in this neighborhood. If you need anything, give me a call, and just have fun with it. And don't worry about what people say.
Yeah, definitely, man. Taylor, appreciate your time today. This has been another episode of the Roofing Success Podcast.
Appreciate you.
Thank you for tuning into the Roofing Success Podcast. For more valuable content, visit roofingsuccesspodcast.com. While there, check out our sponsors for exclusive offers, shop for merchandise, and sign up for our newsletter for industry updates and tips. Also, join the Roofing Success Facebook group to connect with other professionals and stay updated on the latest trends. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, like, share, and leave a comment. Your support helps us continue to bring you top industry insights. The website link is in the description. Thanks for listening.